The machines he designed, he signed. Christian Huygens, inventor. He was delighted that the Copernican system was widely accepted in everyday life in Holland and acknowledged by all astronomers except those, he wrote, who were a bit slow-witted or under the superstitions imposed by merely human authority. Across the sea of space, the stars are other suns, a point which Huygens appreciated perfectly well. He reasoned that if our planetary system involved a sun and planets going around it, that those other suns should likewise have a retinue of planets going around them, and also that many of the other planets were inhabited. He set forth these conclusions in a remarkable book bearing the triumphant title, The Celestial Worlds Discovered. The subtitle is Conjectures Concerning the Inhabitants, Plants, and Productions of the Worlds in the Planets. He wrote this book sometime shortly before his death in the year 1690 in this study. By and large, Huygens imagined that the environments of the other planets, and also the inhabitants of the other planets, were pretty much like those of 17th century Europe. I wonder if he imagined traveling to those other worlds which he had been the first to examine close up through the telescope. Perhaps he dreamt that voyages of discovery to the planets would one day be rather like the voyages of geographical discovery in his time and place. He did imagine of extraterrestrial beings that their whole bodies and every part of them may be quite distinct and different from ours. 'Tis a very ridiculous opinion, he says, that it is impossible a rational soul should dwell in any other shape than ours. You could be smart, Huygens was saying, even if you looked funny. But he then went on to argue that they didn't look all that funny, that extraterrestrial beings must have hands and feet and stand upright and have writing and geometry, and even that the 4 big moons of Jupiter, the Galilean satellites, were there in order to provide a navigational aid, a convenience for the sailors in the Jovian oceans. Well, maybe. That bit of speculation is probably wrong, but think of a citizen of the 17th century with the courage and insight to imagine other landscapes and other intelligences. Might there really be mariners on a million other worlds? In his book, Huygens wrote, "What a wonderful and amazing scheme have we here of the magnificent vastness of the universe. So many suns, so many earths, and every one of them stocked with so many animals, adorned with so many seas. How must our wonder and admiration be increased when we consider the prodigious distance and multitude of the stars." The Dutch called their ships flying boats, and the Voyager spacecraft are their descendants, true flying boats, bound for the stars and on the way, exploring some of those worlds which Christian Huygens, a man from Earth, knew and loved so well. Travelers' tales, one of the main commodities returned by those sailing ship voyages of centuries ago, were stories. Stories of alien lands and exotic creatures. They evoked the sense of wonder and stimulated further exploration. Those tales of strange worlds enabled some Europeans to see themselves anew. There had been accounts of headless people, foot people, cyclops people. Now, the Dutch brought back fantastic stories of giant hunters, dodos, rhinos, leopards, and other creatures. Modern voyagers also return travelers' tales. Tales of a world shattered like a crystal sphere. A place where the ground is covered with what looks like a network of giant cobwebs. A world with an underground ocean. Tiny moons shaped like potatoes. A yellow and red pockmarked land with lakes of molten sulfur and volcanic eruptions 300 kilometers high. And a place called Jupiter, so large that 1,000 Earths would fit inside. There are no mountains, valleys, volcanoes, or rivers there, just a vast ocean of gas and clouds. Everything we see on Jupiter is floating in the sky. But there's much that is fascinating about Jupiter. As the solar system condensed out of interstellar gas and dust, Jupiter acquired most of the matter that wasn't ejected into interstellar space and which didn't fall inwards to form the sun. Jupiter is made mostly of hydrogen and helium, just like the sun. And had Jupiter been a few dozen times more massive, the matter in it might have undergone thermonuclear reactions in the interior, and Jupiter would have begun to shine by its own light. Jupiter is a star that failed. Had it become a star, we would be living in a double star system with two suns in our sky, and the nights would come more rarely. Deep below the clouds of Jupiter, the weight of the overlying layers of atmosphere produce pressures which are much greater than any that are found anywhere on the Earth. The clouds are just this little layer here. The deep interior is this high-pressure place. The pressure is so large that electrons are squeezed off hydrogen atoms, producing liquid, metallic hydrogen. But at the very core of Jupiter, there may be a lump of rock and iron, a giant Earth-like world under astonishing pressures, hidden forever at the center of the largest planet. Just before a Voyager encountered Jupiter, you could see that giant planet at night shining in the sky, as our ancestors have for the last million years. And on my way to study the Voyager data arriving here at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, I thought that Jupiter would never be the same again. Never again just a point of light in the night sky, but forever after, a place to be explored and known. To see the first close-up images of a world never before known, this moment is one of the greatest joys in the life of a planetary scientist. In the early morning hours of July 9th, 1979, on the real-time television monitors at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, we began to learn about a world called Europa. These are the modern explorers, men and women trained in astronomy, physics, geology, or engineering. Many of them have devoted 5 to 8 years to this single mission.
Cassin's model for Europa says that if you started off with it liquid, you could probably pump in enough energy to keep it liquid.
Let's see. But the Cassin thing said that in order for there to be enough heating going on, you sort of had to start the heating before Europa basically cooled off, as I recall.
Yeah, but Gene, what about the relief from the cracks? Shouldn't the cracks anneal and flow also? They got to be being renewed.
The Io and Europa, there's a pair there, and then there's a pair out of Ganymede and Callisto.
You can't look at the surface of a world so different from ours without wondering how both were made.
Just rotate it out a little bit.
Voyager presented us with 6 new worlds